Christians have been responsible for more wars and killings than any other group of people in the world. Christianity is for simple-minded people who cannot think for themselves. All Christians are hypocritical, homophobic, and judgmental. All of these statements have been made against our faith through the years. They're truly hurtful phrases that are meant to tear down our belief and to place the speaker in a position of superiority over us. I have to be honest with you. When I hear these things spoken, I get mad. I want to scream, that's not who we are. Not all Christians act like that. Yet I realized that this would actually do very little to convince a non-believer that Christians really are not like that. If that's true, how do we respond to allegations against us? Jesus answered this conundrum in today's gospel. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Love. It's as simple as that. Love. Jesus doesn't say, get into heated discussions with the offending party and attempt to provide counterpoints for his every argument. Jesus doesn't say, write a strongly worded letter to the editor about how you feel mistreated. Jesus says, love. This is not to say that providing counterpoints or writing letters to show the true face of Christianity is a bad thing to do. Just that the way to start is with love. Think about the people who use these phrases. More often than not, they're attempting to start an argument because they feel that their view is correct, yours is wrong, and they are going to make you see the truth with their well-thought-out arguments. How disarming is it to face a person who is emotionally worked up, and rather than arguing back, yelling and screaming, you politely sit and listen to their argument. In cases like this, if you show love, the other party will be put into a state of disequilibrium. They have been expecting you to fight back. Instead, you show love and humility. In another of Jesus' most famous statements, when asked by the disciples what the first commandment is, Jesus responds, the first commandment is this, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. I find it interesting that Jesus feels compelled to include the second commandment, even though the disciples did not ask him that. It appears that the two are intertwined, and Jesus wanted to remind us all that the second is also important. What does this mean in regard to today's gospel? It sets the stage for Jesus to be able to say, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. In the history of our world, we've seen people who take this message to heart. Gandhi, although not a Christian, fought the oppression of his people, not with violence, but with love. Martin Luther King Jr. fought against inequality, not by throwing bombs like his enemies did, but by preaching a message of love and unity. These are but two of the many people in our world who have shown us God's love through the most difficult of situations. I hate to say it, but we as a Christian faith have failed. There can be no doubt about it. Think about the portrayal of Christianity you see in mainstream media. We do not hear about the little church in Milpitas that gives all it can to those in need, who donates time and money to local as well as global endeavors to feed the hungry, clothe the needy, and provide basic rights like an education to those who would not receive it any other way. You do not hear about the church that gave nearly $6,000 last year alone, and with an attendance of about 30 people. Instead, we hear about the pastor who is planning on burning the Koran. We hear about the pastor who takes his church to protest at soldiers' funerals because he believes the death of soldiers is God's punishment for American tolerance of homosexuality. In our own faith community, we see an attempt to set up an Anglican covenant that confuses unity with uniformity and seeks to punish those who hold differing views. This is why we need to hear the message that Jesus preached. If we, as a Christian community, cannot move past the minuscule differences in theology that threaten to tear us apart, how can we ever hope to bring the world to the greater truth that is God and God's love?